Hello, hello, hello guys. What is up, world? It's another beautiful day here in Florida. Had to get outside and enjoy a little bit of this semi-warm weather, although for us locals it's a little chilly. I think it's about 72, 71, something like that. And that is a little chilly for sure. Except that guy, he's got shorts on and t-shirts, and he's all good. But which brings me to today's subject matter while we take our little sunset bike ride. Even though I walked my, what did I do? 2 miles today? 2 miles is pretty good. But the subject of today's video is, so you're thinking about moving to Florida. Now, my real job is in the real estate business. Look at that sunset. Hopefully this camera's doing everything right. Oh, I might as well get out of the way because obviously they're going to run me over. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate the neighborly vibes, dude. So, my regular job is in real estate. It's in the finance part of things. So, I've been doing that for close to 30 years now. And I see a lot of people that move here from the Northeast because they come down here on vacation and they're like, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so nice, and you know, because they're coming in the winter, right? They're coming in the winter when it's like freezing their tails off up in the Northeast, and they come down here and it's warm and they're like, oh, it's Disney World, yay, you know. But that's not really how it is all the time. Then what happens is they get their first real taste of summer. And summer in Florida, you're talking brutal temperatures, brutal humidity. And, you know, every year it's inevitable. It's 2 or 3 threats rather of hurricanes and this tropical storms and all that sort of thing. And then they're all shocked. Everybody's shocked, like, whoa, what is this all about? And they start freaking out. And to us who have lived here for a long time, where can we go today? Oh, I know, we'll go down the bike path. You know, we're kind of used to it. I've been here since 1992 is when I moved to Florida, and I'm on the southeast coast in the, let's just say, the West Palm Beach area, and you know, it's where I like it. So people from, and before I forget, can you all like and subscribe and share and do all that fun stuff, and let's see if we can grow this channel and have good conversations. And if you're interested in, you know, looking at or buying one of these e-bikes, I'll leave a couple links in the description below and you can go and take a look at them. But how it kind of happens is it just seems to work out to where people from the Northeast tend to settle on the East Coast, and people from the Midwest tend to settle on the West Coast. And I always thought, like, why is that? Like, what is it about, you know, those two areas that tend to attract those geographic demographics? So hopefully these cars aren't too loud and it's not blocking out my video, or audio rather. And I was talking to somebody about that one time, and they explained to me their theory, which I happen to agree with. It makes sense. That if you look at the way the interstate system is set up in the United States, Interstate 95, which runs from the top of the US, East Coast, to the bottom, runs right along the East Coast of the United States. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, all that stuff, right? So it makes sense that since it runs right through here, that's the road people tend to take, and this is the area they tend to settle in. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy that. And then if you look at where I-75 runs through, it tends to run through the Midwest, right? Or I guess you would say the Midwest, like Ohio, those sort of Midwestern states, Michigan. But where it ends up is on the west coast of Florida, places like Naples, Fort Myers, Tampa Bay. And that's why the Midwesterners tend to settle over there. Well, I wonder if I just freaked her out. Oh man, I was really hoping to get some nice sun, but doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Okay, let's see if we can get across here and survive. Ooh, nope. Hey, look at this guy. Yeah, no thanks. Okay. So, that's kind of why those folks settle in the areas that they do, because of the interstate system. I'll take it. That's a theory, I suppose. When I talk to people from different parts, like, yeah, we always came down here as kids, and this is where, we used to come, and, we just get on the interstate and come down. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So, in any event, so what happens is they come down here, and then all of a sudden, we get through our, what we call high season, right? So that's pretty much, you used to say, from Thanksgiving to Easter, or about November to April. And those are the couple of months we get. And even in November, December, it's still pretty hot around here. And that's when it's like the fairy tale, the brochure, all the good weather, and all that happy kind of stuff. So, I don't know if my horn works. I'm gonna get by this kid. I don't want to go too fast. Oh, cool, he sees me. All right. And then after that, it starts to change. It becomes hot. It becomes humid, and it never lets up, right? So it can be 2 a.m., 1 a.m., and it's 89 degrees outside, and it's 85% humidity. And if you wear glasses like I do, it's constant, fogging. It's always fogging up your glasses. I'm not going to go down this street because I don't want to bug these people with the dogs. So that can be kind of an annoying thing. The humidity and stuff's really not that big a deal unless you work outside and you got to deal with it and you're in the elements all the time. Then it's kind of a pain or whatever. But for me, it's what I like and what I'm comfortable with. And I grew up in the Northeast. I grew up on the Jersey Shore, and I was always cold, man. Like just maybe for a month or two in the summer, it's like, okay, it's nice out, but hated the winter. I can remember times driving down the Jersey Turnpike or the Garden State Parkway, and they would have like the signs flashing, on the interstate, winter warning, winter weather warning. And one time it was like negative 23 degrees, which probably was sort of unusual, but it was that cold that day. And that was it. I kind of made my mind up at that point, like I am never gonna stay here longer than I have to. So I had a business up there. I sold Thuman's products like Boar's Head, like cold cuts and things like that. So all the little 7-Elevens along the Jersey Shore, and to all the supermarkets like ShopRite and all the little delis. And I actually sold to the original Jersey Mike's Deli back in the 80s. So that's what I used to do. And then I got to the point where, like, as part of that job, you'd have to get up really early in the morning because you'd have to drive from the Jersey Shore, Long Branch specifically is where I'm from, up to where the Thuman's factory was, which is behind the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, and load up your truck. So it's fresh food, so you got to load 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week, and most of those guys are in there by like 6 in the morning. They're starting to load their truck and all that. And so with traffic and everything from where I lived, it was a good hour plus. So I had to, get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, get to the truck, and in the winter, hope that it started, because it's a big diesel truck, with a refrigerator on it. So even though you'd keep it plugged in at night, there are just mornings where that thing just was so cold, and diesel kind of still tends to gel up, and it just wasn't going to start. So in any event, it was just a pain in the ass, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I enjoyed it while I had to, but it's like I started looking around at the other guys that were in there that had been doing it for, whatever it was, like 30 years, 40 years, and you can just see in their faces they all looked way older than they actually were, just weather beaten and tired. And I just vowed that I was not gonna turn out like that. That was not gonna be my life. And my sister lived down here in Jupiter, out in a place called Jupiter Farms, because she had horses. And I was married at the time, and then I went through my first divorce, and I was like, oh, this could be an opportunity. And she's like, well, why don't you come down here, give it a try. So I sold my business, and that's what I did. And I've been here ever since. I had a stint up in, get out of this guy's way. Yeah, okay. A stint up in, moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina for about 8 years or so. Hey, how you doing? He wanted to get me. I don't blame him. I'd want to get me too. And Charlotte was nice, but in the wintertime then it started getting cold again. It was like, people were like, oh, it never snows here, it's warm. And I had a bunch of family relocate there in 2008, I think it was. So bought a house, bought the model house in this one neighborhood because it was completely furnished, and it was in the same neighborhood as my brother moved to. And I was like, okay. And 3 or 4 other family members moved all within a few miles of each other. I'm like, this could be great. Well, guess what? Life gets in the way when you have young kids and you're all off doing your own things, and you never get together as much as you think you are when you were a kid, right? Because when you're a kid like that, you were the ones getting together because all the parents wanted to hang out. And I come from a big family of 8 brothers and sisters. So in any event, so after a while I kind of got tired of that cold weather, even though it was only like, a warm day might be like 65, but an average in the winter was probably 50, 48, 50 degrees, which was still way too cold for me. Not interested, no thank you. So I decided, once we went through some life changes, that, I got divorced again, but this time I had 3 daughters. And I was like, you know what, I'm going back to Jupiter. I'm going back home, which is where I feel more at home, more comfortable. And so that's what I did. Give you a minute to enjoy this view. Nice and peaceful. So, in any event, I moved back. Stayed, I had gotten in the mortgage business, and I stayed in the mortgage business since '92. I did the same thing up there. Opened an office, hired a bunch of people, and it was fun until the market crashed, and then it wasn't so fun. But in any event, getting back to what I was saying, and so I came back here, and what we recently went through, say like in 2020, during the pandemic, was what spurred a lot more than normal migration down here to South Florida, and primarily people from the Northeast, right? And they're like, oh, this is so awesome. And now what I'm starting to see is they're like, well, I didn't realize it got that hot, or I didn't realize it stayed at these temperatures all, all summer long and all fall long and all spring long. And because once it turns hot, that's it, it's over. That party of cool, nice weather is done. And they all bitch, of course, the pizza's always better in New York, and the food's better in New York, and I can't get good bagels here, and yada yada. So it's not everything that they thought it was cracked up to be. So they ended up, now that everybody's work schedules sort of thing is changing a little bit, because we're getting pulled back to a more normal, back to the office, come back in. Some places are 3 days a week, and some places are a normal work day, work week rather, like 5 days a week. You got to be in here, because they're finding, which kind of always figured eventually they're going to figure it out, that productivity is not the same when people are working from home as opposed to in the office with their coworkers. And though most people, I'm sure, are honest and, you know, do work, let's be honest, you know, a lot of people are probably just goofing off. They work a little bit, show like they're being productive, and then that's it. They goof off the rest of the day. So now that employers and big companies have kind of figured that out, people are getting called back to work. They're, you know, especially the Northeastern folks. And now they got to sell these houses that they all bought and paid stupid amounts of money for. I mean, it's down here. We had houses, you know, you used to be able to buy a decent, nice house for $200,000, right? Now you can't find anything for less than decent, $750,000 to $1 million. That's just the reality of it. But the problem is the buyers are all out now. They're like, nope, I'm done. Because it got to the point, and we'll talk about real estate, I don't keep saying that, but in another video. Cool, let's go up here and see. This thing always wants to pop a wheelie on me. Okay, there we go. Good? We're good? We're good. Okay. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so now they're trying to sell these houses. They're overpriced, and guess what? Inventory is building up. You know, prices are still flat to steady. So it's like a big, you know, real estate's like a freight train. It doesn't stop on a dime. It takes a while to slow down, unwind, and you know, that's kind of where we're at right now. I think we're just at the tipping point. If you think of it like a roller coaster, right, where you're up, 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 and then you get to the top, and then it just gets to the point eventually where you're going over the top and down. So I think we're just at the tipping point now at the top, and prices will start to eventually come down. So, in any event, all the people that are trying to sell now are kind of stuck, right? Because they bought at the peak high. Right? They, you know, they bought at the peak. They paid all these millions of dollars, like stupid prices. They were all competing with bids and outbidding each other and paying over asking price and not getting appraisals and not getting home inspections. And now they're screwed because they were stupid. That's such a dumb thing to do. And we all knew it was coming. And you know, it's kind of interesting to watch all the real estate agents brag about, oh, I just got the highest price in this neighborhood, highest listing ever, highest sale price ever. I'm like, yeah, but you're bragging about pricing yourself out of a job eventually, which is, guess what's happening right now? They're all going out of a job because they can't sell any of these houses that are coming to market. You know, there's exceptions and things are selling here and there, but not that much. But anyway, so the New Yorkers are trying to unload their properties because they've all got to go back to work in, you know, the Northeast now. And, you know, they can't do it. So eventually prices are going to tick down. But they find out in the end that Florida is not the big party and the big paradise and all that stuff that they thought that it was. Because, let's be honest, I mean, you could move like to Disney World, right? Oh, this is awesome, we're gonna, but eventually you get the reality of it, and it's crowded, and it's overpriced, and it's, you know, all this other nonsense. Oh, okay. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, this sucks, I want to go back home. So that's what they do. So think about that. If you're thinking about moving to Florida, realize that it's not all that you might think that it is. Like, right, they say like it's not all that it is in the brochure. And there's a lot of different aspects to it, especially the weather. The people are awesome for the most part. My town happens to be awesome. I love this town, and, you know, I'll stay here and I'll die here, and, you know, or someplace close to it when I'm old and gray. But since all the northern people have come here and driven up the prices and fill up the roads and all that stuff, it's not become, well, it's become more overcrowded and crazy than it used to be. So, but that's happening all over the state. And your insurance is going to be insane, right? Because insurance is now doubled and tripled and quadrupled, and I get a lot of clients that call me and they're like, hey Kevin, why did my mortgage payment go up by $500 a month or $700 a month? And then you told me it was a 30-year fixed. And it is a 30-year fix. That's what I got them. I got them what I promised. And I've been in business a long time. I get all my businesses from repeat clients. So I'm very honest with everybody. So we look at their mortgage statements and we find out it's their escrow accounts. And we look and we see, oh, your taxes went up by $10,000 a year because you paid $1 million for a house that the person before you only paid $150,000 or $200,000 for. Homesteaded it, so they're protected from these huge tax increases, and they were good. But once the property transfers from one owner to another, the new tax assessment is based on what is the sales price, right? And it's kind of reevaluated by that. So the taxes go up, and then all of a sudden, the insurance, if they were lucky enough to even get insurance in Florida when they first bought the house, maybe the policy was, I don't know, $5,000 a year, something like that. And now all of a sudden it is $12,000 or $15,000 a year, because it's either that or you get dropped and you don't have any insurance, and we all end up with eventually, the insurance carrier of last resort, which is Citizens. So, and Citizens is always going to be the highest priced, the most expensive. But if you have a mortgage on that property, you've got to have insurance. It's not an option. And unless you can pay cash for your house and just self-insure and cross your fingers and hope nothing happens, that's what ends up happening. So your insurance or your mortgage payment total that you thought originally was going to be $2,500 a month, something like that, is now $4,500 a month. Okay, I'll beat this guy. I hate to embarrass that guy, but in front of his son, I had to do it. So let's go fast down this path and have some fun. So that's what ends up happening, is the cost of living is way more, the insurance is way more, the food is way more, the weather is way different than you would have thought, and they end up moving back. So that is what it is. Let's pass him on the left. Here we go. Okay, we'll speed it up again. So give those things some thought before you think you're going to move to paradise, and it turns out that it's more of a nightmare than anything else. So here we go. Okay, so let's see if this golden retriever is going to want to chase me. I will go with her on the right. Hi, on your right. Up. Two dogs, don't chase me. Don't chase me. Don't chase me. I can't believe it didn't chase me. All right, so that's two dogs that didn't chase me. That's usually fun to get chased, but in any event, I love it. You know, you probably see these videos. I take this thing down to the beach. I'm only 5 miles from the beach, and so, and I actually happen to, blind corner, oh no, all right. I happen to love the hurricanes and the big storms and all that. Of course, not the damage that they do, but, you know, one thing you got to kind of get used to is that when you get these big storms, you're more than likely, if you're in the direct path, going to be without power for a significant amount of time. And that was the one thing that I really couldn't deal with. Everything else you can sort of prepare for, food, water, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to attempt. No, we'll go this way. you can prepare for all that stuff, but the power thing is a nightmare. So having gone through one where I was really into like marine aquariums and building out reefs, you know, and that sort of stuff, it's a very expensive hobby, but I loved it. And then I didn't have a generator, and that was back in probably 2004, 2003. I think we got hit with 2 hurricanes back to back within like 2 to 3 weeks of each other. And at that point I lived way back. You know, I was fortunate enough to live on the river, but we were the last ones to get our power back, so it was a couple weeks. And I end up losing all of my fish, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fish and coral and, you know, invertebrates, things like that. So I was like, nah, I'm never doing this again. And that was just one of the reality checks, you know, of okay, you want to live here. This is all part of the deal. See if I get across here reasonably safely. I can push the button and see if that works. Which I think I'll do. There we go. Let's see if that does anything. And then of course you lose everything in your refrigerator, everything in your freezer. You know, all that stuff goes away. And one thing I never thought about, because I was like, I'm the hell with it. Oh yeah, we got light. I'm done dealing with this. Is we went north to Orlando and got a hotel up there just so we could have some kind of luxury, some kind of air conditioning. Because don't forget, hurricanes come in predominantly in the summer, or at least down here when it's brutally hot. So no electricity means no air conditioning. And eventually you get tired of just going out to your car, starting it up and sitting in it for, you know, 15 or 20 minutes to cool off from the AC. And you got to be careful with gas, because a lot of times the gas stations are completely out of gas, you know, from everybody freaking out. And so they run to the gas station, they fill up, you know, before the storm. So it usually takes maybe a week, 10 days for the gas trucks to start coming back down and replenishing the supply. So a lot of the gas stations are just out, they're out of gas. So you always got to have your cars full of gas. You got to have maybe 3 or 4 at least 5-gallon containers full of fuel, but you got to keep them inside your garage. One thing I've learned is, you know, always have a couple extra propane tanks. So worst case, if you don't get a hotel or you can't get out, you know, at least you can grill, right? You got something to grill with, you got something that you can have a way of cooking when there's no power. Because predominantly, especially down here, like everything, all the stoves and all that stuff are electric, which I hate, but when you lose power, you lose the ability to cook. So at least if you have a gas grill, you can do that. But like I said, I mean, you kind of, you know, you sort of figure it out when you've been down here for a while. You're like, okay, well, if you, depending on what house you live in, if you're going to ride it out in your house, that's what you do. And then you're like, well, if not, if it's something big and you definitely don't want to take the chance of riding it out, you can get a general direction if it's going to go north of you or south of you. So if it's going to come south of us, or we're going to take a direct hit, but it's going to drift more north, then we go south. We go down to me and my kids. We'll go south. We'll go down to the Keys, find a hotel down there somewhere. Or if it's going the opposite way, we go north. So north is better, obviously, because there's a lot more options up there. You can go Orlando, and then you can go Ocala, you can go Jacksonville, you can just say the hell with it, I'm going to Georgia or, you know, South Carolina, something like that, and you've got plenty of options that you don't have. Going south, you pretty much have the Keys or, you know, maybe Miami, that sort of thing. But in any event, you figure it out from living here long enough. But I hope I gave you all something to think about, you know. While it is nice to be here and it's nice to live here, it's not what everybody thinks when they haven't lived here before and they haven't experienced it. So you know, you got everything that goes along. There's a price to pay for everything, right? We say nothing is free. And so you get the beautiful weather and all that for a couple months. Spring training, baseball, well, these guys will be here. I think it starts in February here, so, you know, sometime in the next couple weeks. But other than that, once summer comes, it's a whole different ball game. Bugs, alligators, lizards, that sort of thing. But to me, it's worth it because I've been doing it so long. Oh, let's see if I can get through these cars without crashing or scratching them up, considering I take care of both of them. But to me, it's worth it, and I love it, and I wouldn't be anywhere else. But if you ever decide and you're thinking about moving to Florida, think about the consequences and the other things that you have to deal with. Love to have you, but just understand what that means. This is Kevin from What's Kevin Doing, and I am out.